So the name Sente is rooted in arcade history. It was a company run by my dad back in the 80s, and it was centered around this idea of modular arcade machines. When we conceived of the Polycade Sente and packed it full of all of these modular features, our beloved Ron Lindemann pointed out that this product must bear the same name. So we did it. I sat down with my dad to get some fun stories and a bit more info about the original Sente, so I'm going to share that with you now. Cool. Well, so Sente was a line of arcade products that was designed around like a modular concept, right? Where the
Yeah,
button.
it was a very, very robust. We had a metal frame with, we could put on various, cladding, so that if you wanted to change the game, you would just change the software and change the graphic package, and so there was this thing that a lot of people don't know, but games in bars, they basically have a half-life of somewhere between 4 and 6 months, and at that time, then you'd bring a hand truck in and you change the game to keep the earnings up. Um, the maximum earnings would happen within 3 to 4 weeks of when the game first came into the bar, and so um, I thought that it was an unnecessary expense. Why not just have it so instead of a pickup truck with a hand truck and a couple of burly guys, um, that just somebody could come in with a car with a retrofit package and change the game, and it worked. It was highly successful, um, and had some good fun with it. And we had some great games. We had we actually developed the first foot input where you could actually, that actually, and we patented it and ended up being part of a lawsuit later on with Dance Dance Revolution,
Oh,
you know, things like that. It was innovative.
very cool, very cool. And the controls of the Sente itself were also swappable.
That's correct.
And then on the inside it had like a cartridge system. Is that right?
That's correct.
Cool. And this was all like before JAMA cabinets were a thing, right? Like this was,
Exactly.
yeah. So at the time there wasn't really this idea of like um, swappable cabinets and yeah, modular
Yeah.
arcade machines.
It was another innovation.
Yeah, nice, nice. Super cool. Well, yeah, the I was actually chatting with some amusement industry folks, Key Snodgrass from Replay Magazine, and she mentioned when I mentioned Sente, she mentioned that you guys had like a launch party with snakes.
We had a launch party that was so off the wall. Just we basically took one of our warehouses and we turned it into a jungle for the launch party, and it was, I always think that distributors and all that, everybody loves a good party, and it was over the top.
Nice, because there was a game called Snake Pit, right?
Exactly.
And so you guys brought in like a bunch of snakes.
We did. We had a 35-foot python, which was scary. I, it's one thing finding somebody that has a bunch of snakes that they rent, and another thing to be confronted with a 35-foot python.
No doubt. Wow. What a trip. See, I feel like I missed all the good parties.
Well, you were there, but not not big enough to totally
Yeah,
appreciate
doesn't
it.
count. And then ultimately, Sente was sold to Bally.
That's correct.
And did they kind of like carry it forward for a while, or
what ended up
They
happening?
carried it forward for a while, but Bally was actually in a little bit of disrepair at the time, and they didn't know where they wanted to go, and they sort of had one foot in the consumer market and one foot in the arcade market, and it was, 83 was where the home market kind of blew up a little bit, and revenues dropped everywhere on games for about a year and a half, and I think that kind of led to them just not doing a lot of reinvestment in it. And then if you don't reinvest in the game business, it goes away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, is this where I remember hearing a story where you ended up on the board for Bally? Was that when you sold Sente? Was that when that happened?
Yeah, that was part of the quid pro quo, and it was fun being on the board of Bally. A couple of the really fun things that we did. They wanted me to design some games around their slot machine business in Germany. And I developed a couple of games it's called the Spielbanken. That's German for slot machine. and made them #1 in the market for about 4 years based on my designs.
Awesome. Very cool. So you had a story about joining the Bally board that was kind of fun, where they like had a strict, like at the time in the 80s, like a lot of the arcade space was sort of like had mob affiliations because it was all cash based, right?
Correct.
And Bally was like one of the early companies that was like straight laced. They like had no affiliations with the mob.
No.
Oh.
Okay. When Bally started, they were absolutely mobbed up.
Huh.
And when I joined the board, they had gotten rid of all the gangsters and were really going clean as clean. But when I joined the board, since they were in the slot machine business, I had to be approved by the Las Vegas and the New Jersey Gaming Commission. And, and the thing about it was once I passed, then they give you a do not contact list. And these are people that you can't have lunch with, you can't have conversations on the phone, or it violates the gaming regulations. And I thought, I don't know any mob guys. And then I looked at the list, and there were about half of my distributors.
I had lunch with this guy last week. Nice, yeah. That's hilarious. So, okay, one more story from those days. At sort of at Sente, it was more like at the collection of companies that were, because Sente was one of the Catalyst companies. Catalyst was an incubator that you created, sort of.
It was the first. It was the first incubator in Silicon Valley.
Right. And
another innovation.
Yeah, nice. Why do one when you can do five? And so there was like an engineer there that you were like so impressed with him and like how much he worked.
Oh yeah, it was actually two guys, and go in on a Saturday night, they'd be there. Go in on a Sunday morning, they'd be there. And I thought, boy, these guys are working hard. Then I went into the furnace room at one time, and there was a little room off the furnace room that was turned into their apartment.
Those guys had set up home there. Who did the graphic work and like the logos for Sente?
It's a guy named Roger Hector, who was really a great graphic artist and a good software engineer. But,
Mm.
you know, when we were building games, the look was his. And then a guy named Ed Rockberg was the Go Fast software programmer, who's a great guy. In fact, I met him, I saw him again last week or last year. It was a big Atari reunion, 50th anniversary. And I saw a bunch of old guys that were really great. one of my one of my engineers, who was Howie, actually was now Wanda. So that was kind of a surprise.
Nice. Yeah. Times change, people change. Uh, nice. Well, I think that covers my questions. Um,
Well, it's been great. I love the product, Tyler. I think I don't know if it's genetics or whether it's my tutelage, but I think you've got good game sense, and that's the highest compliment that I can give somebody.
well, thank you very much. We'll chalk it up to tutelage.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dad.